Good morning. It is so wonderful to be here with you this morning, those of you who are in the sanctuary and those of you who are watching online. The opening words this morning are from UU minister, the Reverend Peter Schick, and it's entitled, "This Sacred Place." This place has been waiting for us to gather our dreams of justice and peace. This place has been waiting for us to honor it by opening our hearts and speaking our minds. This place has been waiting for us to fill it with compassion and loving kindness. This place has been waiting for us to draw from it a breath of common purpose. This place has been waiting for us to listen to the wisdom of its silence. This place has been waiting for us to fill it with the urgency of new possibilities. This place has been waiting for us to make it sacred by our coming together.
It's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, oh Lord, and I'm standing in the need of prayer. It ain't my sister nor my brother, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Tain't my deacon nor my elder, but it's me, oh Lord, and I'm standing in the need of prayer. It's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer.
Thanks, Warren. Thanks, Marilyn. That's great. The flaming chalice is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the liberal religious tradition to which this congregation belongs. Will those of you here in person please stand in body or spirit for our chalice lighting? If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it with us at this time. Please join me in reciting the words on our screen. As we kindle this flame, we recommit ourselves to nurturing the spirits of one another and the common good of the world we share. May the light of this flame be welcoming to all who seek a liberal religious home. I invite you to remain standing for our opening hymn, number 38, Morning Has Broken. This is a special request from longtime UUFR member Sonia Quinn. Hit it.
Praise for the
If you're visiting for the first time with us this morning, I'd like to offer you a special welcome. Here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh, we are intentionally inclusive, liberally religious, and actively serving the common good of our shared world. Whoever you are and wherever you are on your own religious journey, you are welcome here. If you're visiting us for the first time in person, I invite you to stop by the welcome stand in the foyer if you haven't done so already. If you're a return visitor, you can pick up a more permanent name tag at the welcome stand. If you're visiting online, I invite you to fill out our visitor form at uufr.org/visitor form. If you do this, you'll start receiving our weekly e-newsletter. I hope all of you will read through the chalice you received by email on Thursday about all of the great stuff happening here at UUFR. Let me highlight a few of those. There'll be a town hall meeting soon after the service right here in the worship space. There'll be an opportunity for you to hear some updates from UUFR's board members and ask questions that you might have. Feel free to grab a quick beverage from social hour down in Founders Hall before coming back up here to the sanctuary. Childcare will be in the Sunshine Room. I might want to be in the Sunshine Room with all this rain. It sounds pretty good. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to sign up for one of our listening circles that our Strategic Planning Committee is hosting to talk about the draft of our new strategic plan. Sign up in the foyer after the service. And next week on Sunday, May 7th, we'll be having our annual flower ceremony. Plan to bring a flower from your yard or someplace special or close to home. Check next week's chalice for more details. Now, I invite you to meet and greet your neighbors.
That's okay. We're good. Okay. All right. This is the time in our service when we acknowledge some of the joys and sorrows of our community. We do this because we believe a joy shared is a joy made greater, and a sorrow shared is a sorrow made easier to bear. Anyone is invited to email a joy or sorrow to joysandsorrows@uufr.org before 9 a.m. on Sunday. You're also invited to light a candle before the service, and if you wish, fill out a card with your joy or sorrow to be shared with the congregation. We have one sorrow this morning from Jay Gudeman. It's for the family of Julian Brett Edwards, who died recently, and also for Jay himself, who found him. So we hold the family of Julian Brett Edwards and Jay Gudeman in our hearts, and send thoughts and prayers to them. As we hold these shared joys and sorrows in our hearts and reflect on the unspoken joys, sorrows, fears, and hopes of our own lives, let's be together in stillness and silence, opening ourselves to that spirit within us and amidst us, called by many names but known to every human heart, that leads us to a fuller, deeper, richer experience of life. After the silence, we'll sing hymn number 121, Spirit of Life. But now, let's be together in stillness and silence.
Much of what we do at UUFR to help and care for ourselves, one another, our wider community, and the world that holds and sustains us all is only possible because of the generous financial gifts so many of you provide. Your generosity today and your future giving supports everything we do here at UUFR, as well as our efforts in the larger community. It's now time for this morning's offering. If you would like to contribute this morning, we invite you to bring it forward to put in your contribution in one of the offering plates at the front. You may also give using one of the methods on the screen. Please be generous and thank you. Thanks, Tatiana. To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in sunlight, or a grain of sand. To worship is to be silent, receptive, before a tree astir with the wind or the passing shadow of a cloud. To worship is to work with dedication and with skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music. To worship is to sing with the singing beauty of the earth. It is to listen through a storm to the still small voice within. Worship is a loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for rain. Worship is kindred fire within our hearts. It moves through deeds of kindness and through acts of love. Worship is the mystery within us, reaching out to the mystery beyond. It is an inarticulate silence yearning to speak. It is the window of the moment open to the sky of the eternal.
People are no longer willing to put up with mediocre church. This was a statement Reverend James made in response to a presentation by the Reverend Dr. Arvid Straube at the Eno River UU Fellowship in Durham a month ago. Reverend Straube, who is Minister Emeritus of Eno River, delivered a paper. He said it is really a conversation and a work in progress on the death and resurrection of Unitarian Universalism. Reverend Straube focused on why some faith communities, including UU churches, are thriving when 2/3 are in decline. This statistic was the conclusion of a study of 15,000 faith communities across the U.S. The study found that the faith communities that are thriving have vital and engaging worship services, services that stimulate an emotional and passionate response, and motivate worshipers to live out their faith in everyday life. Reverend Straube also believes that the primary mission of our faith should be to help us be whole, authentic, and compassionate people, to become awesome human beings. There are more than 200 of us who attend Sunday services, either here in person or online. That's a lot of folks, a lot of different folks, who come here on Sunday mornings seeking different things. The origin of the word worship is from the Old English worthsippen, which means to shape something of worth. How do we shape worship to be vital, engaging, emotional, and passionate when we are all so different and we want and need different things? Let me ask you, why are you here? Why are you here today? Why have you come to worship at UUFR? Why have you come to be here with these other people? Why have you come to be here with these people to share worship? Over the past several months, I asked some of you why you come to church on Sunday mornings. Some told me, I come for the music, like the beautiful music this morning, or I come for the kids' programming, or I come to have a religious experience. A common response was, I come for the community. What happens in the service isn't that important. When I followed that up with, well, what if we didn't have a worship service and we just gathered together instead? The responses were, then we would just be a social club, so I guess the service is more important than I thought. For me, I come to church to have my heart touched. I want something, a story, a reading, a music, a hymn, the sermon, connecting to a friend, something that will bring tears to my eyes. It is that emotional connection that motivates me to be a better person. At a service in February, Reverend James welcomed new members and offered them some advice. The first suggestion was to grow your own soul. How someone goes about this is a very personal thing. When asked about UUism, I often say that we UUs support each other on our individual spiritual paths rather than follow a creed. We are signing up to help each other grow our own souls. Can a worship service be vital, engaging, emotional, and passionate, and motivate us to become better individuals when we are all on different spiritual paths? And how do we support each other when our paths are so different? Meeting everyone's needs seems like a tall order for a Sunday morning service. In a book called The Four Spiritualities, author Peter Tufts Richardson describes 4 paths to spiritual expression. The paths are based on the Myers-Briggs personality profile. One characteristic of that profile differentiates the way we gather information, whether we primarily use data from our senses, seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling, or from our intuition, our 6th sense to understand the world around us. A second characteristic differentiates whether we are likely to make decisions through objective thinking or subjective feelings. In other words, whether we choose our analytical mind or the way we feel about things to choose among our many options in life. According to the author, these 2 characteristics pair up in 4 different ways, and that determines a preference for a spiritual path and a worship style. I first learned about the 4 spiritualities when I worked on the staff of the UUA Mountain Desert District Leadership School, led that year by the Reverend Dale Arnick. Reverend Arnick is now deceased, but served then as the long-time settled minister at the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos in New Mexico. While the book goes into much detail, he explained the 4 paths very simply, and I'd like to share his interpretation with you. One spiritual path is the journey of unity, preferred by those people who are intuitive thinkers. This path attracts people who love ideas and like exploring possibilities. The humanist tradition fits well in this path. Give these folks a great lecture, and they have had a spiritual experience. Another path is the journey of devotion, preferred by those who use data and their feelings to make decisions. These people are convinced emotionally by hard evidence. They tend to follow religious leaders like Jesus or Buddha. You won't be surprised to learn that these folks make up only a small percentage of Unitarian Universalists, and yet they are here among us. A third path is the journey of works, preferred by those who make choices based on data and are called to action. These people find their spirituality in the things that they do. They actively work to make the world a better place. You can probably think of all the people here who are very involved in our social justice and environmental ministries, or who devote a lot of time to caring for others. The journey of works could be their spiritual path. The fourth path is the journey of harmony, preferred by intuitive feelers, those who constantly search for self-awareness and understanding. These people are likely to enjoy ritual and symbols, taking parts from many of the world's religions and creating something new. Reverend Arnick referred to these folks as the chimes and incense group. People on this path find a spiritual experience in ritual, deep mystery, and sacred space. To boil this down even more simply, some of us prefer lectures, some follow a path shown by a prophet, some are called to do good works, and some prefer symbolism and ritual. Talk about diversity. How can a worship service be vital, engaging, emotional, and passionate when these spiritual paths have such different expectations? I began thinking about this question about 18 years ago. It was a Sunday in July, and I was one of the worship associates who delivered the morning service at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Indianapolis, or UUI for short. At UUI, the worship associates created services once a month and during the summer when the minister was out of the pulpit. While I no longer remember what the service was about that day, I do remember, as soon as the service ended, that Judy, a founding member of the church, ran up to the front of the sanctuary to talk to us. At UUI then, whoever delivered the service remained up front, as they did not have the practice of greeting the people outside the sanctuary like we do here at UUFR. I saw Judy approach and I thought, oh, she wants to tell us that she really enjoyed the service. No. Instead, she told us that the last song we sang had too many verses, was much too long, and we should never sing all the verses of that song. That hymn, We Laugh, We Cry, was then and is now still one of my favorites. I was shocked that anyone would suggest not singing all the verses because they are really important and must be sung. But also shocked that someone cared enough about hymn length to give us that feedback. We got other feedback that day, including nice words about enjoying the service, but also comments about the things UUs love to discuss, argue about. UUFR is my fourth UU church, and at all four, there have been comments and even arguments about what should or should not happen during the Sunday morning service. I'll share the top three. The first is joys and sorrows. In smaller congregations, individuals typically get up in front of the congregation and deliver their joy or sorrow personally. As the membership grows, there are more people who want to share whatever is in their heart that day, and that means the joys and sorrows time in the service gets to be too long. It is also the case that some people can go on, and you wish you had one of those big hooks like you see on the cartoons to pull them back to their seats. I have seen joys and sorrows done many ways, and yet even here, when I recently asked about Sunday worship, someone said they missed the connection they used to get when the joy or sorrow was shared personally. And then there is meet and greet your neighbor. Oh, the committee discussions I've had over the years about this. In general, introverts tend to dislike this part of the service, which leads to the concern that new visitors will be turned off. That day when Judy said she didn't want to sing all the verses of We Laugh, We Cry, I thought, I don't want to do the meet and greet. A friend here at UUFR told me she only attends service via the internet because she is horrified, her word, by the meet and greet jumping around that she sees when she watches online. And the last one, clapping. Okay, you're all sitting down, right? Folks online, be sure you're sitting down. And please, no booing or yelling. I'm from the chimes and incense path, and I really hate clapping in the service. For me, clapping disrupts the feeling of sacred space. If I could ban it, I would. And I'm not the only one. There are others in the congregation who, when asked what they liked and didn't like about our services, said immediately, "Get rid of the clapping." At the time of Judy's feedback, I had already been an active UU for about 10 years. I was well aware that there were disagreements about what made a good worship service. So I started thinking about how we do this thing called worship as a group, and I remembered a couple of stories. One of the most life-changing events in my life was attending as a participant the UUA Mountain Desert District Leadership School in the mountains of Colorado. Leadership School then was an intense week-long retreat for UU lay leadership. A group of 30 people would gather at a retreat center to learn about UU history, worship, how to work together, conflict, and community. Each day, a small group of about 5 were told they were responsible for putting on the next day's worship service. 24 hours to come up with an idea, plan all the details, put it together, and still participate in all the other activities planned throughout the day. I was selected to be in the first group. We didn't know what we were doing or how to do it, and we had just met each other. The group came up with a lot of ideas, and I no longer remember what the service was about. What I do remember is that we incorporated the ideas of every person except one. Melva's idea just didn't seem to fit with the others. We kept getting stuck on how to incorporate it, and we were running out of time, so we didn't use it. After that service, there was a time for feedback. Everyone at the retreat was part of this critique. Learning how to create worship was one of the reasons we were there. People told us what they liked, and then the ministers who were leading the school asked if there was anything that we could have done better, or if there was anything that was hard to do. I brought up that we couldn't work in Melva's idea. She started to cry, and I felt just horrible, both for bringing it up during the critique and for not finding a way to use her idea in the service. At the end of the critique session, the ministers made the point that group worship cannot happen without sacrifice. In order to shape something meaningful for everyone, someone may have to give up something that they really like. Then there's the story about my friend Dave, a member of my UU church in Salt Lake City. He was one of the people you could always count on. He was there for all church cleanups, for congregational workshops, for adult religious education classes. He volunteered to help at all events, and he and his wife came regularly to church almost every Sunday. He was a great guy who cared a lot about the church and about the people who made up the community. There was one thing, though, that was perplexing. He would never come to church or to any event if he knew that Amazing Grace would be sung or performed. He hated the song, and no amount of cajoling would get him to change his mind about staying away when that hymn was sung. He made a choice to stay away, to not participate at all because of one thing. And I missed him when he wasn't there. These stories, Judy, Melva, and Dave, are milestones in my spiritual journey and the way I think about worship. I began my church involvement thinking only of what the church service could do for me. As I came to embrace this faith and care about the people, about the community, I began to see worship as belonging to all of us. I began to notice that other people really enjoyed the parts of the service I didn't like. As a new UU, I never wanted to hear God talk, and yet I cared about those who wanted to hear it. Eventually, I figured out a way to translate that God talk into words that fit into my own spiritual language. Silent meditation was something that I struggled through until someone shared with the worship associates that the meditation time needed to be longer. So I decided to really participate, rather than think about what I was planning to do after church. I am a Myers-Briggs introvert, and I really didn't want to do meet and greet your neighbors. But I began to take deep breaths, put on a smile, and say hello to folks. And now, many years later, I find myself walking up to newcomers and old friends to greet them. I'll be honest, I wouldn't miss this part of the service. Yet I know many of you are deeply touched during this time. That's really the thing about our worship services. What someone really loves, someone else hates, dislikes, or is indifferent. I can't begin to count the number of times over the years and at 4 different churches that I've heard someone say, the service that morning was really great, and someone else say that it was just okay. What we individually find to be vital, engaging, emotional, and passionate will not be the same for everyone. Worshiping together means that we won't always appreciate every service or every part of a service. Think about this. If a particular service meets all your needs, it means someone else probably didn't get their needs met. So what can we do? Perhaps you prefer jazz music when rather that classical piece was shorter. Let the classical piece be a gift to someone else. Or maybe you didn't like one of the hymns chosen, thought it was unsingable, only to notice folks sitting near you that they were singing out strongly and swaying with the music. Embrace that hymn, wrap it up, and let it be a gift to those who are enjoying it. Maybe you really don't like responsive readings. Let it be a gift to those who do. Maybe you really don't want to hear references to God. When they occur, let it be a gift to someone who wants to hear God talk sometimes. Maybe the message didn't speak to you. Let it be a gift to those who say it was wonderful. I have come to understand that worshiping together means I have to let go of the selfish desire to want the service to be perfect for me. So in the same way, I translate language I don't like into language that fits with my spirituality. I gather up the part of the service that I'd rather leave, and I give it as a gift to someone else. Part of worshiping together is the gifts we give each other so that the service is a meaningful experience for all of us collectively. It is embracing our different spiritual paths, taking in what speaks to us, and giving away that which doesn't. It is being aware that our participation impacts the others who are here. In preparing for this message today, I thought about how we might extend this idea of gifting into other parts of our lives, and I immediately ran into things that happen that are just wrong or unfair or unjust. So I'm not talking about overlooking those types of things. I'm talking about the things that are preferences, where we have different ideas about what works best on our own spiritual paths. So if for you to worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, or if for you to worship is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music, or if for you to worship is to stand in the need of prayer, or if for you to worship is to reach out to the mystery beyond, remember that we are all on different paths. Remember that those parts of worship that have little meaning for you have a great deal of meaning for someone else. Collect those parts of Sunday morning you don't like and offer them up as gifts to someone else. Participate in the parts you don't like and help make the service special for everyone. Help create common worship. Part of what we get from the service is what we give. Let us all collectively shape our time together. Let it be a gift. So be it. Blessed be. Amen. Our closing hymn is, can you guess? Number 354, We Laugh, We Cry, and yes, we are going to sing all the verses.
We need to feel there's something here to reach.
The closing words this morning are from Charles Herrick. If you have come here seeking God, may God go with you. If you have come here seeking the way, may a path be found. If you have come here seeking community, may we be your friends. If you have come here seeking spiritual renewal, may you leave here strengthened in faith, renewed in hope, and touched by the experience of love. We now come to the end of our time together. At the beginning of each service, we light the chalice to create sacred space for our common worship. We now extinguish the flame to end our time together and to close the sacred space. We take with us the parts of the service that spoke to us, the warmth of community, and the joy of giving to others. We carry these with us until we are together again.